Yeah, look, and we back. Let's talk about the differences in between this motor and a 16 valve, like a LS motor, or yeah, something like that, and why I would never use one of those. I just don't like them, but I have my preferences. I like RPM, and they'll do that, but the difference is the science of the motor. This motor's more made to do that. The science of the motor allows it to do that better. So to rev the motor, you take one of those and try and go to 77,000 RPM with a stock LS base style engine. See what happens. Or do it and just hold it there. See what happens. See, I like my motors to run fast, so this fits me. I prefer that. It's more forgiving on parts, more forgiving on torque. Stretch the torque out. It's better. So I like these motors. And the difference is naturally that they're just more efficient. They're better. Oh, they're not better. The LS is better. They say, well, if you got more money, it might be. But if you take a LS and attempt to do some of the things that these motors can do, you'll see that it's not even close. This is a race bred style motor. Just automatically, it's bigger because the heads. That's why the motor's so wide, and the heads are like that because there's an extra 2 passages. 2? Yeah, per cylinder. So it's 8 cylinders, and each cylinder got an extra 2 air passages. That's why the head is so big. So where there's metal on an LS motor, which is more weight, this is open and there's air on the inside. So it's not as heavy as it may look, because these heads have open passages. They're open because there's 2 extra air passages in them. That's why the motor looks so big. But it doesn't weigh that. Old school push rod motors, probably they'll weigh that because their heads still have the material pretty much in it. These don't. They've been opened up for air passages, and an extra 2 per cylinder. So the cylinder head got wider, and that's why the motor is so wide. But that doesn't mean it's heavier. It's not, because it's not really material in there. It's just open air passages, so it looks like that. But that's because where metal is in another motor and it ain't doing it no good, it's just making it heavier. There's no metal in the way. It's actually air flowing through that area, and that makes the motor more efficient. No metal in the way, we have an air passage there. So obviously that's what we call 32 valve, and that's what makes these motors better. It's just that simple. And that's why the motor doesn't have to be that big. This motor, 300 horsepower, where this motor will make pretty easily. And this is a detuned 32 valve motor to make 300 horsepower. That's easy. You can't do that with a push rod motor. Like, you got to be bigger, or you got to have a more extensive head package on it, like a small block Chevy. To make just 300 horsepower, you have to have a decent head on there, or else you'll make 150 or 200. Why? Because you don't have much air flow. And the motor will have to be much bigger. 350 cubic inches, 365 cubic inches with a stock head on it. Probably bigger than that with a stock head on to make 300 horsepower, like an old school motor. This is a 281 or something like that. That's how small this motor is. You know, the work is being done in speed. That's what I like. Stretch the torque out, and so it's not as violent. It's better for traction, better for parts. And that's why I choose these 32 valves. It's just different character than push rod 16 valves. They act different. Not to say that a LS can't make a bunch of power. Yeah, you're gonna pay for it. That's the difference. We could take these motors, and the reason what you're seeing modern day is people taking a motor that's just better, and they're just taking them straight out of factory cars and doing stuff that LS couldn't even conceive of. Basically almost taking, you know, they may change at most some of these motors nowadays, put some pistons and some rods in it. And most of the better stuff has steel cranks already in them. They got 32 valves already and steel cranks, and some of them got steel everything already there. And how do you, that's the difference. That's the difference in between a push rod motor and one of these. In order to get the performance that these motors have, you have to go spend a bunch of money just to even get level. Why? It's because I have extra flow. You got 2 whole extra passages on each piston, and that results in efficiency, a better motor. And that's just what it is. May take up a little bit more space on the outside, but it's just, these are better motors. That's why everybody wants to start using these. You'll fall behind. Why? It's because these are race-bred technology or science. IndyCar would never run on anything other than 4 valves per cylinder or more. I don't know if they actually have a 5 valve, but you know, you look at a YFZ four-wheeler, 5 valve. The steady adding passages, air passages. Why? Efficiency. Makes the motor perform better. That's why I like these motors, and that's why I wouldn't use anything else. The amount of power that you can make with a modular or a 32 valve motor, a LS base motor or push rod motor just can't compare with the ceiling for the price. We'll say for the price, because that's actually the factor. Yeah, you can do that with those, but yeah, you got to put $15,000 in your block and heads to do stuff that motors like this will do from the factory. That's just a number I threw out there, but you gotta put some money in LS or push rod. We just say push rod motor. You gotta put money in it. Why? Because you're lacking on air passages naturally. So you naturally gonna have to work harder to get the air in comparison to that. That's just the nature of what's going on. You can't change that because you prefer a motor. It's just, that's why the motor's not that big. It's not even 300 cubic inches right here. That's not a lot of motor, but if you look, you make a lot of power though. Can't do that with a push rod motor. 200, yeah, what is that? It's got to be highly modified. You think about a 289 old school push rod motor, had to have a lot of work into it to do what this motor does. they put a lot of work into the 289, then it would probably do this, what this motor does. That means revving high and making power doing it. 289 ain't really making a whole lot of power. It may rev high. Naturally, they're going to rev high. 302s, the old school 302s, they're rev high, but they ain't going to make a whole lot with it. These motors actually make power. Why? They revving high and they got some way to move the air. So it's not metal there. There's an opening with air moving through it, which makes it better. When the other ones only have the 16 valve, say LS or whatever, push rod motors, you just got metal in the way, extra weight. Clear that metal out, man, so some air can move through that, man. Get your game up.